Welcome to Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is a good introduction to the entire process of advertising and IMC. Now, just a couple things as we start the course with this is the first chapter, and hopefully everybody's listening to this, but you need to understand that these recordings, which are going to be done for each chapter we cover, just listening to the recording is not a substitute for reading the chapter. You're going to have to do both. Because remember, so there's 2 chapters per week approximately, and you'll take a quiz over chapter 1 and 4 in week 1. All right, and plus you'll do a discussion board for chapters 4 and 1, and so on. So it'll be twice everything, two of everything each week. Okay, and some weeks might have more than 2 quizzes, as in midterm. So keep that in mind. So, and understand that the quizzes that you'll take during the regular weeks, or the regular quizzes, are open book. You can have more than one shot at it. Okay, and that's to incentivize you reading the chapters and understanding. But understand this: the midterm and the final test, which you'll have to be proctored and you'll go in on into the Southeast, and there'll be more information about that later. That's not until week 4, but those are closed book. So please keep that in mind as we step ahead. Okay, so careful study is warranted. And understand midterm is only over the first, I believe, 8 chapters. And they're not in sequence, so we don't cover every chapter necessarily. And the final test is just like another midterm, essentially. Okay, so let's talk about it. IMC and advertising. When we go through this, you'll notice that there's learning objectives, which you should pay attention to. You might want to take notes as you go. This will help you take the quiz and make it much quicker. So there's a number of them. Brands. So the idea of brands and brand messaging. Remember, if you took, and if you haven't, that's okay. But when you take marketing, you'll know that one of the primary goals of marketing is to create, maintain, and enhance the reputation of a product. And brand, so a brand name such as Apple or General Motors, or product brands, Tide, soap, perfumes, clothing, you name it, all those things have a brand name. Well, what you're doing when you message or advertise is you're trying to persuade the target market to buy your product. So you want to speak in terms they understand, and you want to be consistent about it. Okay, so brand messaging is a way to influence or inform or instruct that decision-making process. What do we need to know to get people to see the value of a brand? And that's why you see advertisements repeated over and over again, because they hit on kind of the main selling attributes. Okay, marketing communications influences your choices. That's what we're trying to do, is influence you. This is the selling, or and marketing is often mistakenly thought to just be advertising, which it is not. The process of marketing is really much broader than that. It's determining a target market, which thereby directly influences or informs how, what, when, and where you're going to say what you're going to say in the messages. Okay. Integrated marketing communications, which you'll see it as usually abbreviated as IMC, is very important to understand, and it's a kind of a lofty sounding idea with a very simple meaning. All it means is no matter the type of media, whether it's print, TV, radio, digital, social media, flyers that are delivered in the mail, you're going to deliver a consistent message about the brand or the product. Okay, and some might use emotion, some might use facts. There's lots of different ways to do this. And you'll get to put some of this into practice when you work on your project, which is another video. So anyway, IMC is that consistency. Companies strategically plan, coordinate, and integrate messages that target audiences understand. That's the whole goal, is to be understood and inform and persuade. You know things, so you do things. That's our goal in marketing. But brands are everywhere. Okay, I think I covered that pretty well. And again, This is no substitute for reading the chapter. Absolutely positively not. You're going to have to do both. Listen to what I talk about, then go to the chapter and read. Okay? And these will always be in the same place in the course, so you can find them week to week. Okay, so what is advertising? Paid form of communication, right? Pretty straightforward. This is to contrast, which we'll talk about later in the term, with public relations, which is unpaid market communications. Again, communicating with those we're trying to influence to buy. So it can be used in many different ways, many different mediums. This is where communications, understanding what, how, when, and where, but also the creativity of it to capture attention. Identify sponsor. So it's a lot of different things. It's really a fascinating subject. So engage in integration, complementing other marketing efforts. So when we talk about the 4 Ps, which are the easiest way to understand marketing, we've got a product which has features and benefits. What it does for you. Not necessarily what it is, but what it does for you. That's why you tend to buy it and how it makes you feel. Pricing sense. So features and benefits send a message. They could be a service as well. Service could be a product as much as a physical good is a product. Pricing is a reflection, a powerful reflection of the attributes, value that we ask for. It's what you have to give in exchange to acquire the benefits of owning that product. So for example, an expensive watch versus a cheap watch, they both keep time, but some of the value might be the styling, what it's made out of, it might be handcrafted, the loftiness of the brand name, and so on. So we want to integrate those. And distribution too is part of that. So we've got 4 things. We've got product, features and benefits, pricing, place or distribution, and then promotion. They're all tied together. And that's why they're called the marketing mix. So the human communication process, which we'll talk about more, it's send, receive. Remember, in this context, in advertising, the listener does not have to listen. That's why we have to get their attention. So one of the things that advertisers need to do that other communications, for example, interpersonal, has less of a burden. Because, for example, when you go to work, you might not have to listen to your coworker. Okay, you may choose to do it, or you might have to listen to your boss. Okay, in a marketing situation or an advertising situation, there is no obligation to listen. That's why we have to cut through the noise all that's out there and make a connection to that target market so they'll hear it and understand it. So the receiver, when they say decode, that means they have to understand the message. And the feedback, which we should determine as we work on creating the advertisement, is what's our goal? We want them to buy. Do we want them to go to the store? What do we want them to know or then do? Okay, so human communication process. And this is true of B2C or business to consumer, which is what we're talking about here, or B2B, which is business to business advertising. They're directly related. They're just a little different in who they're targeting, because B2B tends to be targeted to more professional buyers. So make sure you read this carefully. So there's a good map of the communication process. So we're the source, we're the sender. We encode or make it understandable. We put the message in a channel, as in print, radio, TV, social media, direct mail. We've got lots of choices. Decode, does the receiver or the target market understand? So if you just remember this simple process, that'll go a long way to help you make sense of what you need and what you need to say and why you need to do what you need to do. There's no single source or receiver, and there are some new attributes, like for social media, where it's a two-way conversation. So this has changed from being just a one-way kind of an opportunity. So we can adapt as needed. So there we go, that interactive model. So the ad and the persona, when they talk about persona, they're talking about the brand persona. When you think of the brand, what is it? What attributes does it have? What what does it make you think of? Does it, I mean, some brands are specifically created to think of youth or for more mature audiences, or the target market can be thought of as a persona. Who exactly am I selling to? This is utterly important because sometimes we want to advertise to teens. Well, the language, the words, the structure, where it's placed, what media we use is going to be dependent upon who our target is. And I'm not going to go through every single slide, but I'll just pick out a few here. Communications process to advertising. It's just that this is a means to an end. Okay, this is a means to an end. So we're always thinking, what's our goal? What do I want the target market to know or then do when they're done? Relationship marketing is just that. We're trying to create, I mean, I'll give you the end of the story, trust. Because when we trust a brand, we buy it again because it performs as promised. That's why when we market or advertise, now I'll start using the word advertising strictly. When we advertise, we're trying to reinforce that relationship because we're telling the target market that the product will perform as promised. If it doesn't, we break the trust. And that's why you don't buy things that don't work. You would avoid them. But things that are consistent, no problem. You trust it. So here's different transactional versus relationship marketing. I mean, they both have a place in a sense. I mean, because it's not that relationship marketing is devoid of transaction, because it's not, because that's the ultimate goal. It's more the implication that we want to listen, and we're listening more. We're more focused to the fact that we want to satisfy that customer. We don't ever want to overpromise in advertising. Customer retention. We create loyalty when our product performs. When it does as it is intended. Okay, I think that might be enough to get you going. And if you need to listen to this more than once, I would highly suggest you do it. But here's the 4 P's. Product, again, features, benefits. Price, what's the value you have to give up? What do you have to give up to get it? Very important that you understand that. And then distribution. So if we're going to advertise, so this changes things. If we're going to advertise or sell into foreign markets, we have to translate it now. That's why you need a native-born speaker to translate your messaging so you don't offend or miscommunicate, which both equally bad. So we want to be careful about this. There's lots of ways to fail, in other words. Okay. I think that's probably enough for this chapter. I don't want to make these too long. So this should get you going. Jump into it. Read the chapter, then do the discussion, then read the second chapter, which is chapter 4 in week 1, and you'll be off and running. But you're really going to have to stay after this and manage your time. There's no substitute for getting to work. So thanks much. If you have any questions, please let me know.